Welcome, Dr. Pitre, and all the attendees to this Southern California Clinical Translational Science Institute Career Development Seminar Series. Today, we're tackling a very important area that impacts research and career development productivity, as well as researcher quality of life. So the topic is improving time management skills. And we are very, very, very excited about Dr. Cory Pitre, who's an associate professor of clinical emergency medicine and who's program director of the translational year residency at the Indiana University School of Medicine. Thank you so much, Dr. Pitre, of being here today. I think the scholars of our training program and all the others who are here today are going to be so grateful that you're here and you're going to help them, giving them some tips on time management. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Patino-Sutton. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Let me share screen real quick and make sure you guys can see that okay. Can you guys see that share screen well? Great. So as Dr. Patino-Sutton said, my name is Cory Pitre. I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for this opportunity. It's really a pleasure to meet with this group with CTSI and to be able to discuss this interesting and difficult topic. So I'm coming to you guys from Indianapolis, Indiana. So I'm in the middle of the heartland of the States here. If for guys some of you that don't know, I use the largest school of medicine in the country, in the galaxy, I joke sometimes. We have a ton of medical students here. We're the racing capital of the world. Everyone's about to start talking about the Indy 500 here all through the month of May. This is also kind of used to be the heart of Big Ten country, which is now extending all the way out to Southern California next year, all the way to USC. So we'll be seeing you guys in the Big Ten next year as well. A couple of acknowledgements, just want to make sure and acknowledge my collaborators. We worked quite a bit on a few different workshops and publications on these topics over the years. Couldn't have done any of this without these guys, and they're not all here with me today, but they're all very well represented and what you guys will see here today. And also say special thanks to you, especially to Dr. Cecilia Patino-Sutton and Dr. Liz Berner. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity. It's super great to be here today. Real privilege. A couple of disclosures. I don't have any conflicts of interest. You don't have to worry about that. We're probably going to mention some products like Google something, calendar or something like that when we talk through some of these things. I don't have any specific products that I endorse at all. So no to worry about any of those things. One more disclosure too, as we kind of head into talking about this topic. I struggle with these things as well. My relationship with time and boundaries is very complex and goes through seasons of good and seasons of challenge. So, I'm happy to lead this discussion and I really like talking about this stuff. And I'm really happy to share my epic failures from experiential learning in this area as well. But I don't have a magic template or a formula that's going to really solve anyone's time or boundary needs. But I think will give us a lot to think about that will help you formulate a plan of attack to help you with these relationships moving forward. So as we begin, I really want to I'm going to start really broad, like bordering on philosophical broad. And then we're going to like ratchet down into kind of some more specific detailed things as the time goes. So trust me, we'll get there. And it'll be some more concrete things to think about and talk about as we move through. So first of all, does anybody know what this picture is? It's a famous piece of art. Relationships with time are all throughout pop culture. Feel free to shout out if you even know the name of this one. I can't see the chat, disclaimer. So if anyone says it in the chat correctly, let me know. Anyone know who the artist is?
Dali.
Yes, it's Dali. And this is Dali's famous Persistence of Memories. So this one, you can see kind of some interesting conceptualization of time and weird relationships with time. Here's a little bit more of a pop culture reference for you guys. Relationship with time. How seductive does time travel sound, right? I mean, being able to go back, how much I could get done last week if I could go back to last week. Showing my age a little bit with this one. This is an 80s classic. This is a favorite of mine. Here's a little pop culture reference from popular music. This one's from back in the 1970s. If anybody knows the song, the artist of the album, this one, feel free to say out loud. This is one of my faves.
Is that
Particularly when to say again.
Is that Pink Floyd?
It's Pink Floyd. This is from Pink Floyd's classic Dark Side of the Moon album from 74. And this second stanza here, when you go read it, it really kind of makes you think, a little bit hard about kind of your own relationship with time. I feel like that most days, trying to get the things done that I need to have done. But point of showing you all these is, we grapple with this, I think, in our culture, and it's represented often in some of the art references and popular references we think about. Has anybody seen this before? I can't see raise their hands, so it's just shout out. Has anyone seen this before? So this is a life calendar. This is a calendar of a 90-year life, and each box is 1 week in a 90-year life. And this is about a 35-year-old on the 90-year life calendar. So this is, depending on how you look at it, a lot of boxes behind you, or maybe not a lot of boxes ahead of you. So when you start to think about time in this really abstract sense, I like the concept of my relationship or my rapport with time, because depending on who you talk to, some people say you can manage time and you can, commodify it. And I don't know about you guys, but I have a really hard time managing time. It usually manages me. So I like to try and focus on my relationship with time. So I like the concept of kind of a healthy relationship with time. So that's why I chose the concept of rapport with time. Now let me see if I can run these polls correctly. I'm going to ask you guys to answer a question here. Let's see. All right. If everybody can see that, you should see a poll. Please answer, how satisfied are you with your current relationship with time?
Are you able to see the results?
I am, and I can share them too. It looks like everyone is. Can you guys see that now?
Perfectly.
Okay, great. So, everyone's kind of on the more negative end of the answer for this, I guess. So people are hoping to have some better relationship with time, perhaps. Let me see if I can do this correctly. I have to end this poll. Okay, I did it right. Yay. Okay. So as we kind of move forward, these are some objectives that I hope we can kind of accomplish as we kind of talk through this and get to some more specific things over the course of the workshop here. So we want people to be able to recognize that our complex relationship with both time and boundaries influences well-being and career satisfaction. You guys know that, but we're going to kind of emphasize that a little bit. Then we're going to try and define a little bit of a stepwise approach to promoting a healthy time and boundary control, or relationship is probably a better term to use there. And then explore some strategies and best practices, perhaps, that we can guide how we approach these things. So, many of you guys are physicians, and you're wearing multiple hats, right? So it's really no secret that I think most physicians would say that we struggle with time and boundary control. On the left side of the slide here is an NPR article from last year talking about the struggles with the healthcare system and practicing in our healthcare system. The top right is a really famous article published by Tate Shanafelt that we're going to talk about a little bit more detail too. And then the bottom right is kind of what you guys probably got in your inbox too. I get these things all the time, AMA or someone of the like telling me that, I know that you're struggling with this. And if you want to learn some more, just click here. And they're always trying to help us with ways to, better manage our inboxes, our relationships with time and boundary control. We know from the big mountain of physician wellness data out there that career satisfaction and burnout are diametrically opposed, and there's tons of literature that kind of supports that. I'm going to hop through a couple of quick slides here just to kind of illustrate that. What you all feel is also what we find when we start studying ourselves and looking at this. So physicians perceive less time for personal or family life. And this was a comparison study, a huge data set from 2012 that looked at a matched cohort of US workers versus physicians. And most physicians felt like they had a lot less time for personal and family life compared to that matched cohort. Time and schedule control may be driving physician workforce attrition. This is terrifying to me. I don't know if you guys are following any of this stuff, but this study was done in 2017 and then repeated in 21, sort of right after the first brunt of the COVID pandemic hit. And the number of physicians reporting intent to reduce work hours in the next year went from 20% to 31%. I'm not sure what it would be right now, and I suspect they're repeating this study one more time, and we'll get that answer here real soon. But that's makes me worried, especially for our younger physicians. I used to joke that, my trainees, I need you guys to take care of me when I'm old and sick, but there may not be as many of you guys now, which is terrifying. Time and boundary control may be drivers of career satisfaction. I think we all feel that, right? But we see this in this study from 2009. The literature sort of supports that folks that felt that they had the best career satisfaction reported controllable lifestyles and specifically working less than 50 clinical hours per week. So, time and boundary control. So, and then there's all the things that we know to be true, those of us that practice as physicians, especially work clinically. I think we accept some of these things as just how it is, but it's challenging and it's difficult. A lot of scheduling nuances, all different kinds of practice of medicine. The prioritization of patient care requires that we do some kind of wonky things with our schedules sometimes and work weird hours and unorthodox schedules. The nature of the work that we all do, especially this group, not just the clinical work, but, research work, it requires so much focus and just sort of drains your brain, right? It doesn't leave a lot of time and energy for some of these other battles that we have to fight with time and boundary management. And then, as you guys are well aware, multiple roles, and we'll talk about that a little bit more as we kind of move forward. But it's challenging to balance multiple roles, right? Because more roles mean you're accountable to more people, which means more people are asking you for more things, right? So you have to be even better with managing these things. So I'm going to try and put up another poll. Since I was successful the first time, I'm going to try it again. Let's see. Okay, here's another poll for you guys. So how often do you sort of need to do items run through your mind? So you're doing whatever, you're on the treadmill, you're commuting to or from work, you're laying in bed and you're like, oh man, I got to remember to do that. I can't forget to do that. So
I don't see every hour on this list. Is that?
Meet me after.
Touche. I was
We
thinking
can
the
talk
same thing.
after. Okay, here is everyone's results. So daily at least. And there was a request for more frequently, it sounds like. So perhaps even more frequently than that sometimes. Okay. Cool. I think I successfully navigated that poll too. Great. So I don't think that's an uncommon sentiment, right? So I want you guys to take a look at these images on the screen here, okay? And I'm going to ask for some participation from you guys. What do you, if you look at the image on the left and the image on the right, kind of what's your reaction to these? And, does any of this, do you identify with any of this at all? What do you guys think about these images? Aside from the era-defining portable cell phone or that's on the dashboard that you can't buy anymore.
So my car does not look like the top left, but I will say that I do find myself sometimes eating while driving or like combing my hair, like putting perfume on, like these quick, fast things that will accelerate my to-do routines like that I would do in the morning because I do commute over an hour. So like a lot of the time, sometimes I have to get ready while I'm driving, but yeah.
Sure, great. So thanks for sharing. Excellent. What about anyone with the picture more on the bottom right there?
I was going to say that oh, sorry, Jessica, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, I feel like that picture was of me from today. So very much relate.
Oh,
I was
dear.
going to say the same thing. Looking at a computer screen where everything is exploding at the same time is when I want to just bury my face in my hands, But yes, that feeling does happen from time to time.
So, these are, what kind of wanted to illustrate, something that we're gonna, couple of concepts that, make you guys at least think about some of the things that we're gonna be talking about as we kind of move forward. So our priorities aligned with goals and roles, and how are boundaries maintained between life domains? And these are very challenging questions, I think. But these are some of the things we want to contemplate as we kind of move forward and, engage a little bit more and talk through some of these things. So, now that we've considered this super broad sort of stroke of our relationship with time and boundaries, we're going to start to narrow the scope a little bit, and drill down a little bit on a few different topics. Now, again, one more disclaimer here. This claims to be a stepwise approach to these things, and it is, but this approach was really just designed for us to walk through these topics. This is not, a formula that was put forth by a book, and it's certainly not something that, I'd say I came up with that's a foolproof method, but it's just going to allow us to talk through, a lot of these important elements that we need to as we kind of work through this, okay? And the little piggy bank is on here too, because I like to use and conceptualize, time and boundary discussions are so, they're such obtuse concepts sometimes for us that I think if you can relate it to something as concrete as a dollar bill, it helps a little bit. So I like to put these little kind of financial analogies in here. And so I'll put little piggy banks on here when we talk about some kind of financial analogies for some of these things. So the first thing that we want to talk about is really identifying personal priorities, okay? And our priorities really should define our life's work, right? And they probably do, if you really sit down and think about it. But sometimes, when we get really busy, and things really kind of start to feel this spin out of control, it's important to kind of sit down and think about, do our priorities really align with, all the things that we value? And does that bring us fulfillment? So this is kind of the first step in kind of thinking about how to best manage time and boundaries. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a little activity. We're going to do a small breakout room here, and we're going to split the group into 3. And what we'll do is spend about 15 minutes discussing a couple of questions on this topic of core values and beliefs. It's kind of a little self-reflection exercise to get you guys kind of in the frame of mind to move forward with the next steps. And then we'll come back and move forward. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. And Karen, if you want to help get us cohorted into some breakout rooms, we'll take about 15 minutes and we'll kind of work through that. All right, everybody, welcome back. Hopefully you guys had a fruitful little discussion and reflection on kind of where you are with your core beliefs and values and how those things translate to your goals and priorities. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. So, these things really define us, right? The individual that we are. And they really, in an ideal world, there should mesh with your professional goals. And I think for most of us, they do, right? To a greater or lesser extent, usually to a greater extent. Everyone here has gone to great lengths to, be in the profession that they're in now. You're committed. And it probably does define you to a significant degree. But, don't forget, these things do evolve over time, right? And what may have been something that was really, core to you may have evolved and is different now than it was before. So has anybody done a mission statement? In our small group, someone mentioned a vision statement, same thing, like a personal mission statement. If you guys are interested in more of this, I would recommend that you guys read up a little bit or send me a message and I can send you some information about how to do your personal mission statement, which is a little time consuming, but really cool. Great thing to do, great thing to go back to and revisit regularly, particularly at intersections in your career, because it kind of encapsulates all of this and helps to kind of keep you focused on some of these core things. Okay, so let's keep these things in mind. Oh, Cecilia, were you going to say
I was
something?
going to say, Cory,
Go ahead.
I have a mission statement for my training program, but not for myself.
I make my interns do a personal mission statement at the beginning of the year. And, they really respond to it. It's really great. It helps to focus them a little bit with their learning, and it's fun. We've had them do a class mission statement before too, which is like fascinating, really kind of a fun thing as well. So anyway, more on that if you guys are interested. I'm going to move forward here though. Okay, so keep all those things in mind. Let's talk about aligning priorities and goals and roles. Okay, so this is a really important step. And I think this, when people talk about time management, we forget this part. And I think this is really, really important, because when you want to talk about time and boundaries, you need to make sure that things are aligned, right? So this is how you really map your life domains and destinations, you know, like where you want to be, where you want to go. You need to have these things defined and hopefully aligned, because it provides a lot of clarity of purpose, and it really defines kind of where large portions of our time and our life are spent. I'm going to use my little financial analogy. You know, how can time or energy really be prioritized without defining your spending goals first, right? Nobody would just go out and spend without knowing what they needed to how much money they had to spend in the first place. So, you know, are your roles aligned with your priorities? So you want to inventory all your roles. This is a good practice to do every now and then. It lets you know who you're accountable to. It also helps you identify what the best fit opportunities are for you, right? If you don't have very, very clearly defined responsibilities in your roles, that can be a bad thing. Ambiguous roles have been studied to be related to burnout. They correlate with emotional exhaustion, and we also know that role conflict. So if you're not sure what your role actually is, it can actually predict the emotional component of burnout. We think it may be related. So it's really important to know what your roles are and who you're accountable to, but they also need to be aligned with your priorities. Otherwise, you may be sort of going down the wrong path. We also know that, you know, time spent on most meaningful activities is really important, and it's actually inversely proportional, at least in this study, to burnout. It's actually protective. The more time you can spend on what matters most, the better off you're going to be. And this makes sense, right? But it's actually borne out in the data as well. In this particular study, time spent on most meaningful activities was the largest predictor of burnout with that odds ratio that you see there. If you spent less than 20% of your time on what you think matters is the most meaningful activity to you, you'd increase your burnout rate by 24% in this group. So it's important, and it's important to align these things with what's important to you. And then when you think about goals and aligning, we talk about goals a lot, right? I think that's the thing that probably we've talked most about in our career development so far. You want to try to align those things with your priorities as well, right? And if it doesn't fit, well, it doesn't mean it's a bad goal. It may just need to be better defined or redefined, or, you know, the worst case scenario, maybe it does need to be removed if it's not something that aligns with what your trajectory is personally or professionally. There's a little financial analogy there too, the piggy bank at the bottom. You know, would you achieve a big financial goal without a clearly defined need? Probably not, right? You probably have to define that first. If you guys want to learn more about goals, the Locke and Latham publication from a long time ago in the psychology literature is really interesting. Kind of, it's where SMART goals come from these guys' research, and they learned that, you know, if we want a human to do better performing a task, you want to have very, very specific goal, and you want to make it a little bit hard to achieve. You want to make it just a little bit out of reach and make it very specific, and humans are going to do better with that. Okay. Next thing we want to talk about is defining domain boundaries, which I know you guys are hot after trying to get a little more information about. So the bad news is that this is kind of a messy topic. So I'm going to try and give us a little focus here. Here is another poll question for you guys. Okay. How often do you experience stress from negotiating boundaries between work and personal domains? So most days, some people daily. And I think for me, it's daily for sure. You know, even with the best of intentions, it's something that we come up against very commonly, right? So let's talk a little bit about boundaries. This could be messy. we really have to think about, how we define these for ourselves. Sometimes it's defined for us, right? So you might ask yourself, well, that's great, but how much control do I really have, when I'm, charged with completing this work or finishing this course or whatnot? Well, true. I mean, you can't have control over all of it, but some schedule stuff can be controlled, right? But it's challenged by, clinical schedules are really very challenging, I think, in all lines of physician work. Technology creep is a big topic, right? You always have your office with you if you have your laptop with you or your device with you at any given time. And people really like to send us information and messages at all times, right? And then that creates blurry boundaries if you're carrying that around with you all the time, which we all do, right? So it makes it really quite a challenge. So if you really want to get a better concept of where your boundaries are, you may have this clearly defined in your mind, but if you don't, this is kind of a fun exercise. We'll give it to you guys as homework. I'll send you guys a worksheet if you guys want to take it later. Let me know. I'll send it over to you. But take some time and go through an entire day, 24 hours, and write down everything. When you sleep, when you eat, when you're at work, what you're doing, when you're watching Netflix, whatever, and write it all down. And then kind of try and categorize to which domain that sort of would fall into for you. And then try and designate whether it's something that aligns with your priorities and goals and roles. And then you want to look at that, and that'll kind of help to identify maybe where some of those boundaries kind of bounce up next to each other. Here's an example from one of my colleagues that had this example written out from when she did this exercise. So you can see, the clinical work spilled into the early morning hours. There was sleep time. There was helping, have to feed myself, have to feed my kids. I've got a commute, got some other things to do there. Maybe some things for yourself, even dare to sort of squeeze in there during the day. But this is a really great, way to kind of look at, sort of where your time is spent, right? So this is called an activity log. So it's really important to try and define and maintain healthy boundaries, and it's a hard thing to do. You do get to decide to an extent when, where, and how you're accessible, right? And we're going to talk more about these other 2 points about protecting time for roles and tasks and minimizing controllable interruptions as we kind of move forward. But it's an important thing to kind of think about. I get asked often in these sessions, help me with my inbox. Is a very common plea from folks. And it's a challenge, right? I think this is part of the technology creep and the portability of having that stuff with us all the time. And I'd say social media would fall into that as well, especially if you use it for educational purposes or use it for your work. But remember, these are asynchronous communication tools, and you have to kind of remind yourself of that. I know I do all the time. Along with trying to, sort of schedule intervals to review these things. And this would go for your EMR inbox as well, where your charts are waiting to be signed or amended or whatever. Feel free to, sort of try and schedule that within your workflow and set reminders. And then something else that I find people do often is use their email inbox as a to-do list, which it gives me panic to even say out loud, because I've used to have that problem too. And I was able to break free of that. That's actually one of my success stories. But you have to take the time to take all the to-dos out of your inbox. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. But those are some suggestions that I've had from folks over the years to maybe kind of help with that. But I think that's one area that you can kind of control how much you're in there or not in there, but it takes some intention. And you can set boundaries with that too. Okay. Stop me if you heard this one, okay? I was interrupted by something urgent and unexpected. Just curious, like, how many of you guys had this happen today? I mean, this is right. This is life, right? So we need to talk about interruptions a little bit. All right, let's do a brain experiment real quick. Do you guys still have your pen and your and some sort of scrap piece of paper there that you can write on? And maybe more importantly, do you have a phone or something, or even an analog watch like me that you can, like, with a second hand on it, that you can time yourself? Because we're gonna race, okay? we're going to do an experiment to show you guys some limits of human cognitive function, which none of us want to admit is true. So if you've done this before, do it again. It's a pretty fun exercise. So what we're going to do is just where we have a scrap paper, we're going to time ourselves, and we're going to time ourselves. You're going to write the phrase, does multitasking improve efficiency? And then on the next line, right afterwards, you're going to write the numbers 1 through 33 in sequential order. And you're just going to write the one line and then write the other line. And you can see how fast you can do that. Okay. So you guys time yourselves. And whoever finishes first, say something out loud or raise your hand so I know who the winner is. Okay. You guys go ahead and try that out. Oh, somebody's done. What was your time?
42 seconds.
Excellent. Very good. All right. Okay. So now we're going to do it one more time. Okay. Same exercise. This time, what you're going to do is you're going to write the same phrase and numbers, but you're going to go from the first letter to the number and then back to the letter and then back to the number. And you're going to bounce back and forth between the top and the bottom line all the way until the same phrase and all the numbers are complete. Okay. And we're going to time ourselves doing that as well. Right. So everybody get ready and time yourself and go. Yeah, someone said they're done. So whoever finished, how much longer did it take you to complete the second trial?
I took about 36 or so seconds for the first one and about 63 or 65 for the second one. So a lot longer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think generally and I've done this with lots of groups over time. You guys are right on track. It takes about twice as long to do this the second way. And there's reasons for this. Our brains have limits. Interruptions and task switching, which is what I asked you guys to do, are very disruptive. There's a lot of psychology on this. And bottom line is human brains can only work so fast, and they really can't process multiple tasks simultaneously. If you actually mapped it out, brain time to complete a task over time, if you compared, interruptions versus no interruptions, it takes 10 to 20 times longer per interruption if you get sort of a break-in task that stops your brain from doing what it was doing before. So this is obviously very disruptive from a cognitive focus standpoint, and it's not great for efficiency or productivity, and it increases mistakes, and it's stressful, right? It felt stressful doing that second exercise because it is more stress on your brain. So, multitasking is not a thing, a real thing. We can talk about it sometimes, and that exercise, by the way, is from the Myth of Multitasking, which is a little tiny book that's interesting to read sometimes if you guys are interested. We also know this is true in clinical work as well. This is actually one of my collaborators and partners that had done this study a long time ago. They compared both EDs and primary care offices and looked at how many times the physicians were being interrupted or were trying to do simultaneous tasks. And it was, maybe no one's surprised, but, a whole lot of interruptions that happened and a whole lot of people trying to do simultaneous tasks very frequently. And as you guys can see from, the multitasking exercise, that really taxes your brain hard and makes it harder to complete things. So, those are some examples of some interruptions and how it kind of, affects you cognitively, but it happens all the time, right? Like we talked about in our poll, like it happens every day, really. So, you want to try and save time for these things. And this is easy to preach and say, but almost impossible to do. But interruptions are really frequent and consistent, and our brains are not good at managing them. So one of the things I want to emphasize, when we talk about some more specific steps here in a few minutes is, always be prepared to renegotiate your time. We'll talk about, to-do lists and calendar and then renegotiating that in a minute. But you want to save time for those emergency expenditures when they happen, because they do happen, right? And you don't want it to really derail everything that you're trying to get done when these things come up, because they happen often. Okay, let's talk about an organizational system. Just raise hands. How many of you guys have an organizational system that you use? I know you guys all have something because you have very successfully gotten to where you are in your positions right now, but everybody's got a little bit of a different take on this, and that's a good thing. So hopefully nobody has this reaction of, what's an organizational system, but this really should be a companion to planning habits. And it's really important because you have to be able to process all the things that you need to have done so that you can fulfill all your goals and roles. Negotiating time boundaries is really important too, and this helps with that as well. And if you have a system that works for you and that you trust, it automates a lot of things, which is great. So it also frees up some short-term memory and decreases stress. It doesn't eliminate it, but it decreases stress quite a bit. So, some of those things that keep you up, that you wake up while you're trying to go to sleep and say, I have to remember to do that. If you're able to enter that into sort of your organizational system, you may not stress as much about it. It might not bother you as much, and it might free up your brain a little bit more. So everybody should have their own way of doing this. There's no rules. There's lots of books written about this. There's even more apps out there that you can purchase for this sort of stuff. But I think some really key features are to keep this simple, because your lives are very complex and this should not be hard. This should be a simple tool for you guys to use. It works great for you. You want to have something that you keep with you all the time, so that you can, when you have those fleeting thoughts of, I got to remember to do this, you can jot it down somehow and know that you can come back to it later. And you want to use what's comfortable to you. Most of us are using electronic, devices, apps, note programs, calendars, all those things. But some people might still use paper. There was a time before iPhones that I'm sure some of you remember, that everyone used paper planner calendars for these sorts of things, and they work great. But you want it to work for you, right? So you want to use what's comfortable for you and stakeholders. So collaborators, people that you work with, family members, other folks that are dependent on you, they need to be integrated into this as well. Otherwise, it may kind of fall apart and not work with the boundary control part of things. As simple as you can make these, I think most experts would say the basics you have to have, some sort of an inbox or a notepad, somewhere to capture kind of ideas and things. And that's really important. I think that's something that's overlooked. I think a lot of times our people may use their email inbox for this, and it's not the same thing. And so you need to have a place to capture all this stuff. And then you need a to-do list and a calendar. And you may have many, many, many more components to your organizational system that work great for you, but they should kind of revolve around these concepts. For me, I use just the note program on my phone, because I have it with me all the time because I have to these days. And if that's where I capture my notepad ideas thing. So if it's stuff to something, whatever, you have to complete module X by this date, so otherwise you will not be on medical staff anymore. I'll jot that down, and then when I sit down and unpack that, which is on a regular basis, I'll move that onto my to-do list, and then ultimately I'll plan for it on my calendar. But I think you have to have a place to catch all this stuff, because what you want to do, is kind of move things into these spaces. And then maybe the most important part is to not be afraid to move things back into your to-do list when you got interrupted or something didn't get done or life happened to you. That's okay. If you have a system for it, it'll work fine, and you'll get it all done. Okay, let's talk about to-dos a little bit. I think this is a really important part of things. I think I probably gleaned a lot of this from reading David Allen's book, which I'll show you guys in a minute. But it resonated with me. So I use a lot of these things in my own practice now, but capture everything in that inbox. And not everything's created equal, right? So let's talk about what that means. So the priority of each thing that you need to have done, so whether you call these to-dos or tasks or projects or whatever, it doesn't matter. Everybody knows that the thing that's due tomorrow is probably going to get the most attention, right? And if two things are due tomorrow, it's the one that's the most important, the highest priority is probably going to take the highest priority. So you'll have a way of figuring this out. If it's the things that don't have deadlines that give us trouble, I think most of the time. So I like making a deadline for everything. And as anyone that's a good negotiator will tell you, there are no real deadlines. Everything is probably negotiable, but there's something about having that deadline that makes your brain move, in the right direction to get that thing done. So I try to set a deadline for everything, because I think it helps me and to prioritize and get it done eventually. And then urgency and importance, those things I think tend to sort themselves out, but you can have ways to stripe those in your to-do list as well. If something's going to go on your to-do list, first, make sure it's list worthy first. It may be something you can delegate, right? If it's something you can delegate or automate, great. You can keep it off of your list of things to do, right? But if it's going to go on there, there's a lot of different, ways you can tackle this, but make some rules with yourself about how you're going to handle this. One of my rules on my to-do list, if something's going onto my to-do list, it has to be a verb. And that helps me tremendously in conceptualizing and also defining what that is. Because if I can't say what it is with an action word and clearly define it, it usually means I'm trying to do too much in one step and I need to kind of break it into smaller tasks. So, obviously big projects like, grant proposals and things like that are multiple steps, right? That you guys are going to break down and have on your lists. But that's important to kind of think about all the little components. It's also more manageable to think about completing them too, if they're in little smaller bites, right? And if you're not sure why that's on your to-do list, well, you need to ask, right? It might be something that maybe kind of got on there by accident, or needs more priority or less priority, or maybe it's not clear. So just make sure it's clear the work that needs to be done. This is the last little bit about to-dos. And I think this, to me, is a game changer. And I think is really important, particularly when you have so many things on your calendar competing for time, and you're not always maybe your freshest. I was always someone that tried to organize to-do items in little pieces of projects by project, or by role. But for me, it works way better if I group it by cognitive effort. So if it's something I really need my brain to work to get done for work, that goes in a certain place for me on my to-do list things. And I'll show you guys in a minute how I kind of map that out, because I find there's certain times a day that's going to work better for me. I'm clearly not doing that after I work clinically overnight. I don't want to do any high cognitive tasks. It's a great time to fold my laundry, but it's not a great time for me to kind of think about, how I'm going to prepare for the next presentation or so forth. So try and think about, what you're going to need more focus and maybe less distractions, which tasks will fall into that bucket. And I think that, to me, makes it easier to kind of plan for those things. If you guys want to learn more about this kind of stuff, this is like a classic book. Some of you guys have probably read this already. It's pretty dense. And this guy really kind of gets with the program. So like if you really really want to up your game a little bit and read this, great. But there's a lot in here, and not all of it applies to what we do in the realm of medicine and science. Honestly, this is a business book. It's very businessy, but it does have some great suggestions, particularly for email management. I think it's actually really good. But you want to build your system over time, right? So take little pieces from here and there, find out what works for you. And you want to make sure that it also serves all your stakeholders, because when you want to talk about boundary control and where those sort of areas butt up against each other and you have conflict, well, that's why you need your stakeholders invested in this system that you use as well, and get their feedback too. Actually, true story. My wife and I were just talking about this, how like my calendar is not always clear to her the way I label things. And so we're working on that right now, because it's going to help us to, set those boundaries between what I have to do for work and what I would like to do at home as well. And then you want to evolve your system as you go. Start small and build over time. Do not, none of us are going to claim to manage their lives like this guy, like David Allen, like tomorrow. So just build a little bit and network too. Ask folks about how they manage things. Okay. This is the last little bit here, okay? And this is, I think, perhaps maybe one of the most important parts of the talk. So I hate that it's kind of last in our discussion, but it's a really important thing. How often do you guys review future dates on your calendar? Do you guys review that daily? Do you guys do that a couple times a week? Do you do that maybe weekly, or even, only when someone asks you or you're invited to be on another meeting? How often do you guys think about that? just kind of show of hands, how often do you get, how many of you guys feel like you have a regular planning routine or planning habits? I'm trying to get the check. Where's the chat? A couple times a week, weekly, daily, weekly, daily, weekly. Good. And how far out do you guys kind of look when you look at your calendar? So there we go. We got some combination of poll results and chat there. Thank you guys. Karen, I'm assuming this is you. Thank you for putting the poll up, or
Yep,
whoever it
that
is.
was me.
I think it's Karen. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to minimize that now. So if you take nothing away from today, I want you guys to kind of, think about, how important it is to have regular planning habits. This is really critical. And if you're doing it, great. Don't stop. We talked about kind of how to sort of draw the map of, sort of where you want to go with your goals and fulfill your roles. This is how you chart the course to get there. It's the only way that that's going to happen. You really have to sit down and review. And then you also have to sometimes renegotiate, right? Like if you didn't get done what you wanted to get done, which for me is pretty much every day, but definitely every week, you can renegotiate your time and figure out how you're going to kind of fit that in. And also, you may have new opportunities that you want to kind of fold in too. It just allows you to do that. I think of it as a way of just kind of balancing your time bank account on a regular basis. It also promotes some realistic estimates of the time that you have available too. So this takes time and investment, as you guys know, and it takes practice too. You really want to cultivate a habit. They say it takes, I think, 66 days. There's some literature that says it takes 66 days to cultivate a habit, I think. So you really want to try and stick with this, or, maybe evolve it so that it fits you even better. But some people ask, does it really save time to spend time? I've been told, I've not seen this in literature anywhere, that for every minute that you spend planning, or you'll save about 10 minutes in time. So it's like a pretty good return on investment. And then if you fail to plan, that's what I think of as sort of like times credit card debt. That's what starts eating into like your sleep and your relationships, and not getting to life goals or even realizing some of your goals and so forth. So it's really important to spend time sitting down and thinking about what time you have available. I mentioned this a minute ago when I alluded to it when I talked about kind of defining your to-do list by cognitive focus. If you can do that, then when you kind of sit down to plan, you can really match your focus with your energy. How many of you guys have had one of those days, where you sat down for 20 minutes and you couldn't believe how productive you were in that 20 minutes? Like it doesn't happen often. Granted, it's only happened occasionally for me, but it's amazing. You just kind of hit the right biorhythm at the right time. And, that is really kind of more of a function of your energy and your focus. Remember, that's what productivity is. It's really not time, it's your energy and your focus. So if you can sort of mesh your, the right environment with your biorhythms and knowing which tasks are really you need to spend more time and focus on, that's when you're going to feel more successful, I think. I'm a big fan of using calendar appointments, when you kind of plot things on your schedule. I hope your schedules don't really look like this little example one up here, but they might, and that's okay. If people like to put everything on their calendar, but it really, it forces you to reckon with the fact that you have a finite amount of time. And I think it's a good practice to kind of put that on there. It doesn't like delude you into thinking you have, quote unquote, all day or all night to get that done, because we all know that really we don't. So again, here's our little piggy bank again. You want to budget your time income to meet your prioritized needs. So I like being able to kind of see all this and then put it, and sort of map it out onto a calendar, even if it's on a small scale. Here's a great graphic representation of like what someone that was like really on their game for time management, how they would sort of manage a project. This graph is work completed over time and as performed by like an excellent time manager. And then this is the same graph as performed by like, say, me or somebody that's like an epic procrastinator, right? There's always like we'll get it done, but a lot of times it sort of gets done at the last minute here. So I always wanted to mention a little bit about procrastination. It's actually thought to be a pretty normal human cognitive tendency. So give yourself some grace with this, but also know that overcoming that sort of path of least resistance is a challenge. And you have to really kind of find some ways around that. So if it's things that it's one thing if you don't get to it because, you know, you were interrupted, or maybe you didn't know exactly how much time you needed to get to that one thing. But if it's something that you just can't get to, you just can't get yourself to get motivated to do it, you know, there's maybe a good reason for that. So it's a good time to kind of maybe sit down and reprocess that thing. Maybe it's that you need to define it better. That's usually what it is for me when that happens. Sometimes it's you're trying to do it in the wrong environment or the wrong time of day, or you're getting distracted too much to get it accomplished. It may not be prioritized right. And some things just are not good and you don't like to do them. And you just have to incentivize yourself to get it done, right? So there may be something that you just have to kind of reward yourself when you're done with. But, you know, don't beat yourself too much over it. Don't beat yourself up too much over it. It does happen to all human brains and is a normal thing. But just try and remember to, you know, apply some of these principles when you find that to be the case, and hopefully you can get it more in the bucket of things that you're biting to get done. So as I said, this is probably the most important thing to remember. You want to chart your course to fulfillment, and you really want to prioritize those habits and reinforce them if you have good ones now. It's really good, really good practice. It allows you some flexibility to, you know, when urgent things happen or new opportunities present themselves, you can see how that might fold or fit into your available time and how those things might align best with your priorities and your roles. And remember, at the end of the day, you know, there's only 1,440 minutes for all of us, and every day. It doesn't matter what your role is or how many times you've been promoted or what new opportunities you have. There's still the same amount. So try not to spend all of your time income all the time. Try and save some if you can. It's tempting not to, but there's a lot of benefits to saving some of it. Okay, so as we kind of consider our relationships with time and boundaries, we want to keep these things in mind. And again, this is just a framework that I've kind of put together to kind of talk through some of this because it's dense, a lot of stuff here. But think about these things as you're kind of pouring through, you know, how to best tackle whatever element it is that you're kind of grappling with your time and boundary rapport. This is a quote from, you know, one of the authors that I had pulled up and read some things for some of this work. You know, some people say that time's our most precious resource. And then there's other people that say that, you know, time really can't be controlled or possessed or managed, which is also kind of true, right? But I think that we can all agree that, you know, there's only so many minutes available in each day to all of us. And that applies to each one of us. You know, so learning to manage how to best negotiate the relationships we have with time and boundaries is a really important thing. And it's something that, you know, I'm sure continue to struggle with, but I'm getting better at it. And I think it takes some commitment and practice. And hopefully, you know, over time, I'll feel like I've cultivated these skills some more. But, you know, we want to build these relationships over time. And allow them to grow, and, you know, hopefully mostly have a positive relationship with these things. There'll be days when you don't, but it's something to work towards, right? And in the end, you know, I hope that this really helps you guys in, you know, as you think about kind of how your relationship with time and boundaries are relative to your careers and your lives. And, you know, it's really up to us at how we manage these things to direct our life and career. And I hope that this can help you guys, you know, chart your courses to all your, you know, dreams and destinations in your careers and in your lives. All right. I thank you guys so much for paying attention and sticking with this. This is kind of some dense stuff. So I'm happy to talk a bit more about any of these topics that you guys are interested in. I never know, from each audience, kind of who would like a little more information about certain topics and certain things. So I try to keep a lot of this a little bit surface and not dive too deep in some of it, but happy to stick around and discuss with you guys as much as you like.
I honestly feel like we're gonna need a check-in in 6 months to see what people are incorporating.
Or sooner. I think there are some things that we can instantly start using, right? Well, thank you so much, Cory, for coming and preparing and delivering such a meaningful seminar for us. It has been truthfully quite the experience in the best way ever. And I truthfully think it's going to impact us, and maybe in different intensities, but I think all of us are going to take something about this and actually make a difference in our time management. So thank you so much.
Thank you guys very much for having me. I appreciate it.